In this video, I'll start the process of adding details to the handle. So if you look at the handle, you'll see that both on the front and the back of the handle, is this oval, and then within that oval, there's these grooves that make up the grip. And then there's also this logo that's indented into the handle. So I'm going to use some images that I created in Photoshop that are basically just black and white images that are alphas that I can use as alphas in Substance Painter. And there is this oval that is the same proportions as the oval on the handle, and it's a 1024 by 1024 image, and you can see it's just black and white. Then there is the grip lines, which are the grooves that are within the handle. And then there is the ACE logo. Again, these are just black and white images that will be used as alphas in Substance Painter to paint that detail into a height layer, which then gets converted into a normal map. So to bring these into Substance Painter, I want to go to my alphas menu over here and then select the images that I want to bring in, which are the logo, the grip lines, and the oval, and drag them into Substance Painter. And then I'll get this dialog box, and I want to change each of these from undefined to alpha. And then down here, you can tell it whether you want to import your resources into just the current session, into the project, or into the shelf. If you do just the current session, they'll be here for as long as you're working on this project with the Substance Painter open. Project would mean that they'll get saved with the project, and shelf means that they get added to the shelf in Substance Painter and will be there for any project that you want to open. In my case, I'm just going to do current session, and I'm going to import. And those now are here and have been added to the Alphas palette. So what I want to do now is create another folder, and I'm going to call this grip height details. And within that folder, I am going to add a fill layer. Make sure that that is in the folder. And on this fill layer, I only want to paint height. So I'm going to turn off color, rough, metal, and normal, and just paint height. And height is a grayscale value from black to white, which determines how deep or raised the height detail is. And the height detail automatically will get converted into normal map detail when you save out your textures. So in here, I want that groove to be indented just a little bit. And this is something that I can change after the fact because I'm going to use a mask to actually create the ovals. So here I am going to double click on this and call it grip indent. And then I'm going to right click and add black mask. And what I want to do now is scroll down till I see alpha and click on the grip oval so it goes into the alpha, or drag the grip oval onto the alpha. So now the oval is what I can paint with, so you can see that it will look like that. But notice how when I go like that, a whole bunch of them get repeated pretty quickly. So that is the brush spacing, and I want it so that I can scale this up and then just kind of stamp one. So I'm going to increase the spacing so that now you can see that I have to drag for quite a while before I can actually create another one, which is what I want. Then I'm going to increase the size. I'm going to actually make this about 120 so that it is the size of about the right size. So I am rotating this around to the front, and I just held down Shift to snap it to the origin. And I want to change where the position of the light is a little bit, so I'm going to hold down Shift and with my right mouse move around that light a bit so I can see the front here better. So now I can choose to stamp this in the correct space. And I actually think that's a little bit too tall, so I'm going to make this 115. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. So if I now just click here and stamp, you'll see that in the front here it looks good, but it does not look correct on the side. And that is because right now we are working in alignment set to tangent wrap. I'm going to undo that and change the alignment to UV, and this will now be based more on UV alignment. So if I come in here and click, you can see that that now looks a little bit more aligned. However, it looks a little bit off center, so I'm just going to do that one more time, and like that. All right, and then the one on the back is a little bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is bring down the size. So let's say, so something like that. And when you're working in Substance Painter, you can use paint either directly on the mesh or in UV mode. So again, I'm going to change around my lighting here and come in and place that where it needs to be. So something like that. Again, I think that, you know what, I think this one actually needed to be a little bit lower, so more something like that. And then that is looking more correct. So we now have our indents there. Our indents, and we are ready to make some adjustments. So I don't actually need that to be quite so deep, so I can decrease the indent value there, so it's just slight like that. All right, now I can start working on the grooves. So I am going to make another fill layer, and again, just have height turned on. Bring that down a little bit, and call this grip indents or grip grooves. And right click, add black mask, and set my alpha to the grip lines, and I'll start with the one on the front. Remember that that was 15 before, so I can come in and just make that 15 and place that right in there. And so I've got something like that. And actually, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so that I have a little bit room to cut off parts of it if I need to. So something like that. And then over here, again, I'm going to change my lighting so I can see it a little bit better. On this side, there's actually only supposed to be 10 groove lines instead of 12. So it is okay if I just overlap it a little bit like that. And now that I've got those in there, I need to clean it up so that the part that is extending isn't there. So I'm going to right click and add a paint layer, and then I'm going to go to my brushes and just choose a basic hard brush, make the size a little smaller, and I want to remove these parts from the mask. So I want to paint in black. So I'm going to change that to black. Again, make my size smaller, and now I'll just come in and start painting out the parts that are overlapping that I don't want in there. And I'll do that for all of those groove lines, and this is going to take a little while, so I am going to pause the video and come back when it's done. Alright, so now that I have all of those groove lines in there, I can start to make some additional adjustments. I want the edges of these to be a little bit softer, so I'm going to select the mask and right click and choose Add Filter, and click on Filter and then Blur, and that adds a blur filter, which you can see softens out those edges. I don't want it quite that much, so I'll bring that value down a little bit so it's something more like that. And then I'll go to the fill layer and maybe bring the depth of those grooves down a little bit more so it looks like that. So that looks pretty good. So the next thing is to add in the logo, which would go on this side. So I'll hold down Shift so you can change the lighting and right mouse button. And then I'm going to create a new fill layer in here. And this one I'm going to say logo. And again, I'm just going to do the height, and I want that indented some. And for that, I'm going to go back to my alphas, and right here at the beginning I have the ACE logo, so I'm going to right click, add black mask, click on the ACE logo so that it gets added to my alpha here, and obviously I'm going to have to scale that up a lot, too big. And I want to make it so that I can just stamp it easily and come in here. It's actually going to be easier if I do it in the UV space. I think that's just be just a little bit smaller. Something like that. And stamp that in there. So I now, let's see, just a little bit more like that. And then I can go back to the fill layer and adjust that height, which would be something like that. All right, maybe a little bit lower. All right, so I now have the height detail for the grips and the logo, all under this one folder called Grip Height Details that is at the bottom of my layer stack. And in the next video, we will go over the process of adding in the warning indent area that is right over here.